we're going to start our last piece, which is the E part. Notes for solving word problems. If you are a person who wants to know, for the steps, there are 6 steps. So I don't know if you just want to use 6 steps, 6 lines. But there are 6 steps that we're going to be writing in. And they're very generic because word problems, there's like infinite ways that a word problem can go. I know that number 3, I feel like on your online Pearson homework, it's a bit of a challenge. You guys think?
We have Pearson online. What is it?
Mm-hmm. Pearson every week. Friday. The online one, this one's a little different, so you click on it and read it. If you feel like, or you know for a fact that you failed the quiz last week, at midnight, re-quiz opportunity should have been released on your Pearson. So make sure you go look through that. So this is what we're doing. So we have steps in example 1 and example 2. We're going to start with our steps. Here are our beautiful steps. So in box 1 are our steps. Step 1 is to read the problem completely. So don't just skim through it. Don't be like, I don't understand this. All you did was read the first sentence. Okay? Read it completely. Step 2, if possible, draw a picture. Okay? Draw the illustration. Identify your variables. So identify your variables. Label them on your picture. Make it make sense. Okay? Step 4 is create an equation. So are you talking about area? Are you talking about volume? Are you talking about perimeter? Create an equation. All our problems are pretty much geometry-based problems, by the way. Step 5 is plug in the given information. So plug in what you know. And then step 6 is to solve for your unknown. Any questions about our 6 steps? Okay, these are your generic steps for all word problems. Okay, word problems are going to require you to use common sense and critical thinking. So that's what it's going to take. Why do you think so? Huh?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Huh? All right, any questions about the steps? Are we ready for our first example? Aye, yeah. All right. No questions? Comments? Concerns? I'm going to click. Okay. Example 1. Do not try to write down the words. The word problems are available to you in Google Classroom. You can write down the gist of it. You can follow through the steps. So step 1 told us to do what? Read it carefully. Does anyone want to join in popcorn reading with me? Do y'all remember popcorn reading? Okay, I'll start it off, and then when I finish my sentence, you just pop in. That's how it works. I don't know if y'all remember doing that in your lives. A landscaper is designing a flower garden in the shape of a trapezoid. No one popped in.
Oh, she wants the length of the shorter base to be 3 yards greater than the height, and the length of the longer base to be 5 yards greater than the height. Don't continue, right?
No, it wasn't supposed to pop in.
Oh.
We're not doing very well with this pop in.
Yeah, I never did before.
So what height will the garden have there for the 6 square yards?
Round to the nearest tenth of a yard. Okay? So that tells us that if we're rounding to the nearest tenth, that we get to work with decimals. Okay? So we get to work with decimals. So step 1, done. Step 2 is to draw an illustration, draw a picture. Well, clearly we can draw trapezoids. If not, I'm going to go tell Miss Humler on all of y'all. I'm going to draw my trapezoid. I don't know why it's coming out a little slanted, but you just have it. And there's the height. And here's my base 1. And here's my base 2. questions about drawing trapezoid. Hopefully we all survived that. So then it says we're going to label information. So we know that our shorter base is going to be 3 yards greater than our height. So B1 equals our height plus 3. Agreed?
Mm-hmm.
And then we know our longer base, which is B2, it has to be 5 yards greater than. So B2 equals height plus 5. And we know that the whole area equals 360 square yards. So area equals 360 yards squared. So I labeled all my information. Step 3, check. Step 4 is to create an equation. Well, if I'm talking about area, the equation's already created for me, right? Area of a trapezoid equals 1/2 base 1 plus base 2 times the height. Do you remember that formula? Does it look vaguely familiar? I hope so. Step 5 says plug in our given information. Well, we know what A is, B1 and B2 are, so we're going to plug them in. Well, A is 360. B1 is H plus 3. B2 is H plus 5. And our H we do not know. And now step 6 says solve for your unknown. Our unknown is our H. So we're going to go through the process and solve for our H. So we're going to combine like terms. And that gives us 2H plus 8 times H. And then we're going to distribute. So we have 360 equals, and when I distribute a half, half of 2 and half of 8 gives me what? 1 and 2, right? No, 1 and 4?
Yeah.
So we are left with the H on the outside, but we have H plus 4 on the inside. Distribute some more. And we get 360 equals H squared plus 4H. And now, we're just going to keep solving. Now we're down to this guy right here. And this right here, notice how we're missing a C? So this is a sign for complete the square. I don't feel like writing the word square. So what is my missing C value? It is going to be 4. Half of 4 is, so C equals 4 divided by 2 squared. So therefore this is 4. If I add 4 to the right, I also have to add 4 to the left. So we have 364 equals H plus 2 squared. And how do I solve that? Square root. I'm going to take the square root, take the square root. So in the calculator, I'm going to type 364 and press the square root button. It says you're rounding to the nearest tenth of a yard, so that puts me at 19.1. Right? Yeah. Equals H plus 2. Well, is H by itself?
Yeah.
Is it? So what needs to be moved? Minus the 2. Now when I subtract 2, what do I get? So my height is 17.1 yards. And that is my final answer. Now, if you're super good at factoring, there's no way you could have done this with just factoring because 364 wouldn't have broken down. So this is why we use complete in the square, because this is a non-factorable situation. Does that make sense? Alright, how do we feel? Remember, the word problems are just about you taking apart what it's saying. Drawing your pictures, and such and such. Alright? Box 3 is our example 2. And it says the length of the sides of a rectangular window have the ratio of 1.2 to 1. The area of the window is 1,920 square inches. What are the dimensions of the window? Okay? So we're going to say that our ratio here is comparing the length to the width. So way back in middle school and in geometry, you guys talked about geometric ratios. I don't know why that looks so weird. I'm just going to erase that. Try that again. Ratio. And we're comparing length to width. Okay? So what this is telling me is that my length is 1.2 for every one is it inches? Inches of my foot. So it's going to be a 1.2 bigger. So when I draw my window, this is my rectangular window. I know that my width equals width, just 1. But my length equals, it's bigger than my width by 1.2. And I know that the area that the window takes up is 1,920. Why is my pen down already? It won't charge it all much. Sorry, my pen is dying, so now it's doing weird things. That didn't mean to happen with that giant separation. So now, we've drawn our picture, we labeled our information, we're going to come with our equation. So, what is the equation for area of a rectangle? Area equals
Height, length times height divided by 2.
length times width. That's it.
Oh.
You know,
Of a triangle?
of a rectangle.
Oh, I think it's a triangle.
Did we draw a rectangle?
Yes.
Okay.
I heard triangle.
So our area, we know what A is, and A is 1,920. Our length equals 1.2 W. And our width is just W. And now we're able to solve for our unknown. So we have 1.2 times W squared. And this goes back to our notes on page 11, where we talked about solving simple quadratics. So with simple quadratics, all you have to do is either add or subtract, divide, take the square root. Nothing else. So referencing back to page 11. Again, my pen is dying, so it is doing weird things. This page. So the first thing we're going to do here is divide. What is 1,920 divided by 1 and 2/10? Anybody? Everybody? 1,600. Okay? And then, thank you. I'm going to take the square root. And the square root of 1,600 is 40. So we know that the width equals 40. Boom, there's our width. How do we feel? And then to find our length, so length equals 1.2 times W. Well, do we know what W is? So we now have 1 and 2/10 times 40. So what is our length? To write it in inches, so let's squeeze that in there. Inches. So our width is 40 inches, our length is 48 inches. So if our ratio had been 3 to 2, then width would equal 2W, length would equal 3W, and we would proceed, right? How do you feel about word problems? Again, read it, take your time, identify your variables, draw your pictures. Okay? What method of solving is going to depend on the problem. So we did two different methods of solving. We did completing the square, and we just did straightforward inverse operations. So just think about that. All right? So that